I hope you and Fred will come back around soon, okay? Encouraged Peter. Now that I'm retired, I don't have a lot to do but wait around for my grandchildren and play a whole lot of golf. But the older I get, all that walking, I need a new hobby, or at least to have company once in a while. So, don't be a stranger. Quinn smiled at the older man. Quinn found her car and noticed Peter's wave as he pulled out of the hospital lot. On the way back to Fred's penthouse, Quinn couldn't help but think through all the logistics of the upcoming penthouse move. Sammy and Denny had both been over the moon when they'd been allowed to choose the furniture for their new rooms. Quinn was so happy for them. They'd had to share a bedroom their whole lives because Quinn could only afford a certain size of home. Now, they'd each have their very own room. It was like a dream. It wasn't like Fred didn't have the space. It was just him and his son, Jake, living on the entire top floor of a skyscraper. Chef Julian, their cook, and Lance, Fred's assistant, came and went. And Max had a security office. But other than that, Quinn imagined that Fred and Jake had been quite lonely. When Quinn arrived at the penthouse, Fred was glad to see her. The hospital called me to verify that I wanted my records delivered here, he said. So I guess you took care of that. Thank you. I'm not going to say it wasn't odd being back at the hospital just hours after they had terminated my employment, but yes, it's handled. And oh, your father says hello. I bumped into him there. Is anything wrong? Fred asked, his face showing concern. Damn, thought Quinn. I can't very well tell him why Peter was actually there now, can I? She had to think of something quick. No, not at all, she fibbed. In fact, I asked him the same thing. He was just there for some routine tests. You know how it is when people get older. So much preventative care. I would have to say that your father seems healthy as a horse. He'll likely outlive us all. He's a tough old sausage, that guy. But speaking of medical matters, Fred, Quinn continued, changing the subject to a less personal one, we need to talk about that seizure you had the other day. I will read your charts, of course, but I would like you to tell me all you can about your war injuries and how they affect your daily life. Charts don't usually say that. Before Fred could answer, Quinn's phone rang. Hello? Oh, great. Dr. Murphy. I'm so glad I got through to you. This is Kelly Stanton, the orderly at Roosevelt Hospital. I got your number from Human Resources. You remember we met earlier today when you requested the release of Fred Smith's medical files? Sure, said Quinn. I remember. How can I help you? Is there anything wrong with the delivery? Do I need to pick the information up? It's not that, Doctor, said the young orderly, sounding a little bit nervous. Then what's the problem? Wondered Quinn. Well, several of Mr. Smith's files that are supposed to be in the records department aren't there. They appeared to be missing. So I tried to track them down and found out those records had been signed for and removed shortly before you arrived at the hospital. Quinn's heart dropped. Removed? By whom? The signature on the slip said Peter F. Smith, she answered. So, thought Quinn, this is what Peter meant when he said that we all have secrets. He wasn't just at the hospital to see me. He was taking some of Fred's medical records from the hospital. But why? Acknowledged Quinn to Ms. Stanton on the phone. That's fine. He's family. Besides, I will have enough information to go on. Thank you for the call. What was that about? Asked Fred. Just a mix-up with the records. Everything is fine, though. I will have the files I need. I believe it. He smiled at Quinn. You're a very competent doctor, regardless of what the Bernstein family is claiming. Quinn made a face. You know, I wasn't always going to be a neurosurgeon. I specialized in neurosurgery in the end, but before that, I was going to be a general practitioner, a primary doctor. But it turns out my passion was actually the human brain and how it works. Well, That and my fiance Dan, who I met in Introduction to Neurology. Isn't he the one who died? Fred said gently. Hmm? Uttered Quinn, confused. Your fiance. You told me he had died before the twins were born. Quinn reeled at the sudden mention of the love of her life. Why did she have to mention Dan to Fred? Even more importantly, why on earth had she told Fred that Dan King had died?
Hi, Quinn here, and if you're wondering what happens next, click on the link in the description to listen to the full audio series. You can also watch the next episode here in the playlist.